surgery, the table was up here, so if you don't mind, I'm right here. It is a distinct privilege for me to have the opportunity this evening to present my friend of some 37 years, Dr. Robert Littlejohn, known to all of us as Sandy, whether we call him that or not, as the recipient of the Barberton Community Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award. With Sandy this evening are a number of people. His large family. I would like to acknowledge their presence. His wife Judy, Peter and Teresa Littlejohn, Bob and Donna Littlejohn, David and Sue Littlejohn, Michael and Lisa Littlejohn, Bill and Jennifer Johnson, Greg and Lori Florio, Gary Johnson and Andrea, and Angie and Chuck Fowler. Angie is known as Wink, the real Wink. And Sandy's daughter, Carol Littlejohn, and her husband Howard live in Waxhaw, North Carolina, and could not be here this evening. That adds up to 9 children and 21 grandchildren. This is the second Lifetime Achievement Award. It places Sandy in the company of many notable people, such as the initial award, which was to Esther Ryan. And please acknowledge Esther Ryan at table 15. Other notable people in the company that could have been considered had they been around were O.C. Barber, founder of the city, U.L. Light, who was superintendent of schools in Barberton from about 1907 until 1945, Earl Davis, who was mayor of Barberton and then postmaster for so many years, and Kenneth Cox, who served the city as mayor during the time, and during that time he achieved many things, specifically the beautiful walk and lighting around Lake Anna, which I like to remind him about. He then went on outside of Barberton to be a state representative, senator, as well as the director of highway safety. Returning to Barberton for retirement, Ken again served the city council as president and continues to serve on various boards of the city. And please acknowledge Ken at table 18. Other very notable people in the history of Barberton are the Reverend Father Monsignor John Schmitz, who served as pastor of St. Augustine's Church from 1924 until 1951, and Vince Lauder, who served his fellow Slovenians and all Barbertonians from his immigration here in 1913 to his recent death. This is exceptional company. The selection of Dr. Littlejohn as the recipient this year sets a very high standard and continues that standard for future considerations. Through all of Sandy's endeavors, the characteristic most apparent to all is his boundless energy and enthusiasm to enjoy life and to share its blessings in service to all who surround him, whether we need it or not. Sandy was born in New York City, long enough ago to have all those children and grandchildren. Actually, it was in the reign of Herbert Hoover. He was raised in Dobbs Ferry, New York, where his father was a civil engineer and his mother was a private secretary. In high school, Sandy was active on the school newspaper and even played varsity football. He was a member of the National Honor Society. But in his own words, he lived and breathed scouting. He became an Eagle Scout and a member of the Order of the Arrow. In adult service, he has been honored with the Silver Beaver Award. Sandy graduated from RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, his father's engineering alma mater, but he chose medicine as his own career, graduating from New York Medical College in 1957. He did his internship at the U.S. Naval Hospital in Portsmouth, Virginia. As a naval medical officer, he served the United States Marine Corps at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. The Littlejohns came to Barberton in 1959, where Sandy completed his residency in family practice at the Barberton Citizens Hospital in 1960. Thus, he began his medical practice in 1960 in a tiny office in the arcade of the Magic City Shopping Center. He moved to his present location in the Yoder Building in 1963. Sandy practiced family medicine in Barberton for 41 years, serving the entire family from conception to grave. His particular interests are in preventive medical care, heart disease, hypertension, and obesity, including the misuse of food and tobacco. And we all know about the misuse of tobacco for Dr. Murtaugh. He particularly enjoys teaching the younger resident physicians, knowing that through them, the benefits of good medical care reaches so many others exponentially. Thus, Sandy has been a member of the Barberton Citizens Hospital medical staff for these 41 years, and he has served many years as a member of the Executive Medical Council in various medical committees. He was Secretary of the Medical Staff in 1981, Chief of the Medical Staff in 1983, and member of the Board of Trustees in 82 and 83. He was the Medical Director of Manor Care Nursing Home for 20 years, of Rafferty Nursing Home for 13 years, of the Skilled Nursing Unit at Barberton Hospital for 10 years, and the Rehab Unit there for an additional year. In the community, Dr. Littlejohn has had a strong interest in public health. He was the Health Commissioner for Barberton for 9 years and continues to serve actively on the Barberton and Norton Health Boards. He was a major advocate of public water fluoridation when that issue was subject to the whims of the voting public. He founded the Barberton Area Premarital Counseling Clinic, through which he taught medical issues in marriage benefiting some 600 couples. He has been an athletic team physician, serving the Barberton schools for 40 years and the Norton schools for 6 years. He has been a tournament physician for the Park School of Martial Arts for some 20 years. He has been a first aid instructor for the Barberton Red Cross. He is a member of the Barberton Salvation Army, past chairman of the United Way Professional Division, member of the Barberton Area Chamber of Commerce, and past member and chairman of the Barberton Area Family Services. Returning to scouting, Sandy has been a member of and past chairman of the committee for Troop 101 based at the First Presbyterian Church for 20 years. He has been assistant scoutmaster, merit badge counselor in public health, first aid, and rifle. He founded the Medical Explorer post in the Barberton Citizens Hospital, which he served as a lecturer and chairman for some 20 years, benefiting more than 600 youth toward medical careers. Sandy is a member of the First Presbyterian Church of Barberton and currently serves as a ruling elder of session. Sandy joined the Barberton Kiwanis in 1965 and has 36 years of perfect attendance. He was president in 1970. He has been membership chairman, education committee chairman, club photographer, and chairman of the new club building committee. He is an honorary Hickson Fellow and has attended 13 Kiwanis International Conventions. And he has personally brought more than 41 new members to Kiwanis. In his spare time, Sandy enjoys playing the piano, photography, history, genealogy, tropical fish, racquetball, bowling, martial arts, stamp collecting, movies, and good books. In concluding this presentation, I believe that Dr. Robert Sandy Littlejohn has and continues to do so provided a lifetime, now 41 years, of comprehensive medical care and social and fraternal leadership to the Barberton and Norton communities. For all this, we salute him as the recipient this year of the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Barberton Community Foundation. Dr. Littlejohn.
They said that was heavy, that they meant that. Wow. I actually see some of my friends here tonight. I actually see some of my fellow doctor buddies here. I see the head of the hospital here. Bill, where are you? There's that big important guy. I introduced him as one of my helpers when he came in. He's the boss man of the hospital. I wanted to thank John for that very rousing presentation. Everybody in the room's now asleep. I'm going to try to give you some comments to wake you up again. going to tell you the real story, just a few comments. I wanted to thank John for putting me through all this embarrassment, and I'm missing several of my good TV shows tonight. He got me here. I had no idea he was working behind the scenes and conniving to do that. One of my office nurses and my special daughter, Lori, was the other pusher of this sort of thing. She's the one in your program. I'm the guy with the Ben Franklin glasses that looks 100 years old. And that cute trick on the table being examined is Lori, my special daughter. So I wanted to thank those folks. I wanted to thank the foundation for doing this sort of thing, the committee that sat down. I understand there was only one applicant for this award. So that's why I got this position. And I have to get through this. I want to thank that. I guess there was a contest committee or a candidate committee. I want to thank Bank One. Bank One tonight, I guess, had something to do with setting up this brawl and bringing us all under one flag. I wanted to introduce my wife, Judy. My wife, Judy. My wife, Judy. Correct me if I didn't mention her name. Judy, will you stand, please, sir? Now, we do a lot of things, you sort of forget there's a wife. I have a lot of my buddy doctors in the room I know are never home. They play golf. Dr. Kim, would you stand, please? I don't have a partner in town, but when I'm sick or I go out of town, John Kim covers my practice, and on his rare occasion where he leaves town, I cover him. And he brought some of his staff, and I've got my staff strewn throughout the building. I'm not sure where all the kids are, but they're out there. I think there's 9, 10, or 11. I forget how many kids we have. I think we have one granddaughter here tonight. Where's the granddaughter? Where's Andrea? Now to have Andrea stand. Oh, they're back in the cheap seats. I don't know how they got that far. Want to congratulate the previous winners. Clinic and the folks that you heard all the super duper talks about up here tonight. And they went through the agony I've gone through, heavy tranquilization prior to the meeting, a couple of drinks, and finally we can get up here and do our thing. I had somebody hand me this. This is a saying I think was in the Chamber newsletter. It's called Socrates lived a long time ago. He was very intelligent. Socrates gave long speeches. His friends poisoned him. What that's worth. I'm one of the few people in town who was invited to this city. I was invited. I'm from New York. New York. I don't say it that way anymore. But I came from the shadow of the Twin Towers. They were built after I left New York. But my home was in Dobbs Ferry on the Hudson River, just north of the city. And I communicated to the city by train for 4 years for med school. And as you heard, I went to RPI up in Troy near Albany. So I'm a New Yorkian. How the devil did I get to Barberton by invitation? I was in the Navy. And when you're in the Navy and you do an internship, you're given the option of applying for special duties. You can go air, submarines, ships at sea, or the Marine Corps. Well, I didn't like ships, and I didn't like submarines, I didn't like airplanes, so I thought I'd stay on land, and I volunteered to go with the Marines. So, sure enough, they shipped me off to Camp Lejeune, which is now rapidly training guys to head for Afghanistan. And I went down there, and I'm a battalion surgeon, and I'm a doctor for about 1,200 guys. I now, rather than a little Navy cap, you know, I had a helmet. They gave me a .45. I had no idea what to do with it. And I always had a couple of springs left over when I disassembled it. Not quite sure where they went. One time they sent us to the pistol range for familiarization with the weapon. And the target was no further than that wall. You ever shoot a .45? You gotta hold on with both hands and your feet. Ba-boom! And that thing, well, of course my bullets were hitting trees way up there somewhere. They told me, they said, "Little John, don't try to shoot the enemy if he's that close. Throw the pistol at him." So I took pistol throwing lessons for a week. I could hit the guy in the head with the thing every time. Don't try to hit him with a bullet. That was a lot of fun in the Marine Corps. I was getting ready to ship out to the Mediterranean with my battalion back in the late 50s. And that was when Palestine and all that stuff was going on, and Israel and whatnot, troubles over there. And I was busy on a stage like this, only had 1,200 troops in front of me, flyboys and tank guys, teaching them the evils of European women and water. You gotta think about that a little bit, but that's true. It was in those days. I think it still is. For certain countries over there, that's a major industry. The guy said port. I'll tell you about that later. I got a lump in my neck one morning. I had 2 weeks to go to the ship out, and this is something nobody knows about. And I look at this lump, and I'm doing my little shaving business, and I says, "What on earth do I have a walnut in my neck for?" So I went into the Lejeune Hospital, had some surgery. A week later, nobody's talking to me. A week later, I had the stitches out. Nobody's talking to me. I'm a doctor by this time. And they were shipping these slides all over the country for opinions. Well, it came back a very nasty lymph gland type of disease, for which I got shipped to New York for a month and a half of radiation under a big cobalt gun. I used to be taller than this, but when you get 6 months of X-ray, you're not as tall as you used to be. There's a melting factor there. Anyway, this was in May. All the hospital training programs in the country start July 1st. And I got a disease that my Marine Corps career is about to go bye-bye. Because I was going to stay in, and I was going to work up to be chief doctor in the Marine Corps someday. And here I was, just a lieutenant in the Navy, getting dumped on a medical by the military. Wow. So really quickly, I had to ship out some applications for a training program. I'd been treating 18-year-old kids for a long time. I forgot what old ladies looked like. We're doing a lot of babies, because you know how Navy guys are. And but we did a lot of obstetrics, and I cared for a lot of young men. I got scratched from my cruise to the Mediterranean. I was going to be gone for 6 months. Wow. One of the applications I sent out was to Barberton. Why? Paid big money. Small hospital, had tough time getting applicants for their training program. So I sent an application to Barberton. He says, "Where's that?" I had no idea where it was. It was in Ohio. There were no residencies left in New England, New York, Pennsylvania. I said, "We'll go one step further west," and we tried Ohio. And all of a sudden, by return mail, I get an acceptance for first-year GP family practice type residency. It was a 1-year training program in those days. This is how I got to Barberton. Came to Barberton with an unpleasant disease, and I was told by the Navy when I left, "You got 1 chance in 9 of living 5 years." So I spent a lot of time when I got to Barberton pricing cemeteries. I gotta tell you, kids, you all know Charlie Mashburn? Big gun at Green Lawn?
Yeah.
I'm sitting at home one night, minding my own business. The news of this disease process had leaked out, and there comes a knock on the door. There's Charlie. He said, "What are you doing with that tape measure?" Well, I found out. He came in and he's spreading his wares all over the living room. Now, some of the places are above water, some are underwater. Sort of like my granddaughter's seat back there, you know, that's underwater out of Green Lawn. That's low-priced gravesite. Well, I was sort of annoyed by him being there, and I said, "Well, that's fine and nice, but I'm not in the market right now." Having my checkups with the Navy every 18 months, I was doing okay. So he leaves. 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. It's his buddy, his other co-salesman. 2 guys hit me the same night, both waving a tape measure at me. And Charlie asks you how you are, which he always does. Don't answer him. Well, that's another story. Well, that's a little bit. The hospital rolled a red carpet all the way down Pennsylvania Turnpike. I don't think we had Route 80 to the George Washington Bridge then, but, and I walked out, I drove all the way out here to look over this town. And it was a dirty, magic city. There were chimneys and smoke, and I parked my car. Hour later, couldn't find my car for the soot. Sort of like Pittsburgh in the old days, but we came into this training program at the hospital. I don't think Bill was born yet. Where you go? No, you weren't born. So, thereby I've become the oldest. Can you believe this? I can't. It seems just like yesterday I walked out on that red carpet. The oldest member of the medical staff at the hospital lives in the immediate area. We have Dr. Gilchrist in Doylestown, who's got me beat, and I think Dr. Sanders, they live out of town. So this is the old-time doc talking to you tonight. I've always taught my residents to stay in the town where they take their training. Another reason why I stayed here and why I feel a big obligation to Barberton, because they did good things for me that year. They convinced me this was a nice place to stay in spite of the soot. And the hospital was a lot smaller than you see it now. There was a front yard in those days. Didn't have 6 South or the South Wing, but it was small. And we decided to stay in the community. As I mentioned, it pays to stay where you train, almost in any line of work, because you get to know the politics of the hospital, politics of the city. You get to know which doctors will help you and which will crucify you, as you muscle in as a competitor. But my big claim to fame isn't this. My big claim to fame, I was the first American-trained New York Medical College resident at Barberton Hospital. I had some interns that were American, but I was the first resident. That's a year above the internship. Everybody else at Barberton in those days was foreign-born. They all spoke their native language, and they didn't know any English. They knew pain and hurt and here and there. It was fun. I had to be the translator. I had a little German, I had a little Spanish in school, but we had Russians, we had Chinese, we had South Americans, and all these folks who didn't speak English. And I don't know how they ever communicated with the American folk. And so I was sort of a go-between for them to do that. So imagine practicing or training in a hospital here and then go to San Diego. You don't know one person there, you don't know the politics, you don't know who will help you and who will give you the shaft of the medical staff. And even though the town was dirty and smoky, I stayed. It was a nice town. It was the magic city. Immediately got into sports medicine. I think it was Dr. Brightwell. He was a podiatrist in town who talked me into coming out down there and help with the physicals and stand in the mud, the snow, and the rain. And for the next 40 years, take care of all kinds of gross injuries. We've had a few deaths in Barberton. I always try to find the fun in activities. You don't have fun doing what you're doing, you're in the wrong place. You gotta have fun. You gotta have fun in your marriage, you gotta have fun in your job. You gotta have fun in all the activities. It's a rule or grind, you're in the wrong place. Under my desk, I've had some motivating things over the years. The big one that always haunted me from high school days, if you ask 100 men what they're doing with their life, how will 99 of them answer the question? Their employment. That's it. No Little League, no Scouts, no city government, no Ys, no Salvation Armies, no, nothing. 90, I'm not talking women now. This was before women even became as vital as they are now. 99 men out of 100 in Barberton, that amounts to 300 people, do something for their community. Wow, that's heavy. Got a bunch of lazy guys out there, or guys who think they're overworked. You ever ask somebody busy to do something? They can always do something else. You ask somebody who does nothing, they haven't any time to do anything because they're too busy doing nothing. Ever notice that? We have a gal here named Gracie Duncan. Where are you? Where's Gracie Duncan? Right back there with the Health Commissioner, Joe Harris. Is Gracie there? Well, I can't see. Okay, Gracie's one of our past Kiwanis presidents, big gun in public health in Barberton, and she's the type of lady that will say yes to whatever you ask her to do before you finish asking her the question. You haven't gotten to the question mark yet, she says yes. That's the kind of person you want to work with. Everybody, remember Grace Duncan, retired nurse, Barberton Citizens Hospital, was a young, dainty little flower when I came to town, and over the years she's gotten a gorgeous head of gray. Grace Duncan. Thank you, Gracie, for all the inspiration you give us. My second thing under my desk is if you don't do the best all the time at what you're doing, it's a waste of time. Whatever you decide to do, you do it big time, you do it right, or you don't do it. Get out, admit to somebody you can't handle it, or you don't want to do it. Got another one under there, don't die until you're dead. People know a lot of dead people in this room that are alive, but they're dead. From the type of stuff you're hearing tonight for community, all be living. Life is, you know how short life is in geological time? It's that much. Poof, you're gone. Don't blow it. Don't waste it. Utilize it to its fullest. If you're not doing the best all the time, you're wasting your time. And the last one I have under my desk more recently is don't scale. If you don't scale the mountain, you can't see the view of anything. Years ago, John and I were responsible for getting the cigarettes out of the hospital. John and I are big tobacco anti-folks. I call tobacco my Osama bin Laden. That's what we want to stamp out. Barberton, the world, and the country. You talk about 4,000 deaths in New York, about 250,000 per year in this country from tobacco, including my mom and my dad and hundreds of my patients. Lung cancer, big time, real, scary, frightening. It's part of preventative medicine. As you heard tonight, we're doing a little public health in town. Public health is what? Prevention of disease. Years ago, I was part-time health commissioner in town, and we got into fluoridation. You all remember Tom Ryan? He was a newspaper reporter for the Beacon. He hit every Board of Health meeting. He knew he would get headlines every week. Board of Health blasts so-and-so. Little John clobbers so-and-so. By God, he put that just the way we said it in the headlines. And we had fluoridation wars. Barberton had the reputation in those days as being the #1 city in Barberton for illegitimacy, having babies, and the tobacco issue. Sex education came up. Barberton's a big Catholic town. The sex education didn't fly very good. Still not flying very good as far as I know, and perhaps we've lost our reputation. Shortly after, or just before I retired, I hired a sanitarian, a young local boy. Joe Harrison, please stand. There's our health commissioner of the city of Barberton, right there. He went on to create an empire in Barberton. I have 4 employees. He's got, I don't know, 50, 100. And he's got the health department jumping. For a city our size, is the finest health department in the city of Barberton. Just a few hours prior to this meeting, Joe calls me and says we have a disaster in Norton, and we're responsible now for Norton Public Health. 68 kids vomiting and diarrhea, 2 teachers, 1 custodian. As you remember, recently we had a meningitis to do in town with 1 death and 2 or 3 others in Alliance. And boy, does that shake up a community. You talk about anthrax, you ought to see what meningitis does to scare people. Wow. We're working on terrorism now for the city of Barberton. The health departments throughout the state are miserably unprepared for this. The government, as you found, was miserably unprepared for what happened in New York, the old hometown. And that's the big concern now. The field of medicine is what? for the clinic, for myself. It's a battle against people hell-bent on self-destruction. Human beings, I never get a chance to miss chewing out folks for how they take care of themselves, by how they eat, drink, smoke, drive, exercise, no racquetball, big couch, bag of potato chips, and a television set and a bottle of beer. That's our society. 99 of those 100 men not participating in all the good stuff that you guys do. Years ago, we founded a premarital counseling clinic. Just a couple of words. That was my real fun thing. What's the biggest problem in society in Barberton? What's the biggest problem in Barberton, medically speaking? It's not anthrax, and it's not really tobacco. It's divorce. Broken homes. Barberton is 50% single blood parent families. A lot of remarriages. I got girls with 7 kids, all by a different dad. Lots and lots of families like that in Barberton. A lot of free clinic material, down and out folk. Wow. At the marriage clinic, or premarital clinic, we made an effort. It's back in the 70s. Of stemming the tide of inappropriate choices of spouses for a date. We had a 4-pronged approach on a Sunday afternoon that went 8 hours with sandwiches and coffee. We hammered at 15, 20 couples what marriages and relationships were all about. I happened to be the anchor. I could never get a guy to do what I had to do. My job was the anchor. My job was the bedroom. Birth control, anatomy, sexual psychology. The talk, I kid you not, went 2.5 hours and they poisoned me. But we did that for years and years, and we had a lot of participants to fill the different roles of that panel. That one folded out of, would you believe, disinterest on applicants. The old days, you had to get a syphilis test to get married. Nowadays, you don't even need that. You just go get married. How's that for preparation? Divorce rate, 50%. Well, I'm going to flip a lot of cards. I'm going to say again, I appreciate Judy. Judy, stand up again. I'm making a lot of points tonight. I want to thank all of the 7 or 8 or 9 or 11 or whatever it is kids for all being here and producing lots of children. I think I almost know all their names. I bought them all a shirt with a number. I say, number 17, come over here, I want to talk to you. Son Mike's the only guy still in the business back there. Anything new I should know about Mike? The only one out of 9 who can still give me number 22. I'm counting on you, baby. You know, all busy people, they all sound like you don't have a family, you don't go home, you live in the car, or like John, you live at the golf course. How are we doing, John? You want to talk to me this week? His wife is with him. I think she recognizes him tonight. That's great. John's a big golfer. 2/3 of my life's done. 2/3 of the time is gone. People ask me every day, "You going to retire?" I've been mistaken for 45 years old, and they ask me, "Are you going to retire?" I says, "I don't know what the word means. That's not in my vocabulary." But truly, family is everything, and they understand. Judy is the only Kiwanis spouse in our club, in that she went to a lot of international meetings with me all over the country, 13 of them. Finally, she decided, well, it would make more sense to be a Kiwanis member. Joan's thinking about joining now because she's in the same boat. Joan's been in the club as long as I have, and we're very proud of our noontime Kiwanis club. There's another club that meets at 4:30 in the morning. I don't breathe at that hour. It's called the Magic City Club. They're one of our children. We founded them years ago, and they're a super club. They founded the gazebo and that fountain that squirts sometimes in the middle of the lake. Got a couple of things to do. I'd like to see us do a history of Barberton Hospital. I'm not sure it's ever been